Hi there, Jamie Taylor here for Mike's Masterclasses. Let me tell you a little bit about my new class, which is called Comprovisation, the Missing Link. Now this word comprovisation is one that I've made up, and as I'm sure you can imagine, it's a blend of composition and improvisation. And it represents my attempt to put a name on the process that goes on when musicians work up vocabulary in the practice room, as opposed to what happens on the bandstand, which is very different. Now probably the question that I've been asked more than any other as a teacher is, what can I do to get more language into my playing, or more vocabulary? Or else people might ask, what's the best way to transcribe, or the most efficient way to transcribe? And all of those questions really speak of a desire to try and get more stuff, for want of a better word, into our playing as quickly as possible. Now I think there's a little bit of a missing link. I think there's an area that people perhaps don't explore enough. On the one hand, you've got theory, which is very important. We've got to know scales and arpeggios and chords and keys and how things like that work together. At the other end, you've got things like transcription, which again is very important. But I think in between those two things is this area that I'm going to talk about in this class, where we use what we've heard, what we've picked up, what we know, and we filter it all through our own ears and our own musical sense. And hopefully what comes out the other end is something that's influenced by other people but is ultimately ours. And it will be that stuff that we can use organically in the moment to create fantastic solos. So that's not really transcription, it came from a record, but I didn't then go home and write out 3 choruses of Dizzy Gillespie. I didn't even have the guitar on me when I heard it, but I memorised it, took it home and then started to work with it. And I think this is really what jazz musicians are doing a lot of the time when they're generating this improvisational vocabulary. It has to have that content, it has to have that compositional strength. You can make that up yourself, the component parts of it, you can take them from sources, or it can be a little bit of each. And what I like to do is have that blend of the two things, hence comprovisation. I think sometimes there's a bit of a belief that excellent improvisers are having things beamed down to them from some sort of higher plane, when really what's happening is they're drawing on a huge resource, a huge vocabulary of material, rhythmic, melodic, harmonic, that they've worked very hard to put there. Now that's not the same thing as playing a premeditated solo or a worked out solo, but it's certainly the case that it's not coming from nowhere. I think it was Duke Ellington who said words to the effect that nobody ever played anything worth hearing in a jazz solo that they hadn't thought about at least at some point in the past. So what we do in the class to illustrate this is we take 8 different pieces of vocabulary that I've chosen from my own playing, and I tell you the story of how I first came to hear them, where they originally came from, what I did in the practice room to develop them and work with them creatively to sort of assimilate them into my own playing. The sources range from Oscar Peterson to Joe Henderson, even some standard song melodies as well. So there's a tie in there with my previous class, Heads You Win, which talked about the importance of knowing your composed material well. gig, I want to have a clear slate and I want to listen to what's going on around me and respond and hopefully come up with things on the spot. But in the practice room, what I do is I work very consciously and deliberately with particular vocabulary that I'm trying to work in. Now, you can use this class in different ways. On one level, it could be a sort of lick library where you just go in and take certain ideas and try and fast track them into your own playing. But what I really hope it does for you is give you some confidence and some inspiration to go away and develop your own language along the same sort of lines. And hopefully it gives you some strategies for doing that as efficiently as possible. It's never as quick a process as we'd like, but I'm sure many of us have had that experience of spending ages writing out a full transcription of a solo and then a year later looking around and realising that almost none of it is stuck. Whereas with the methods that I'm going to show you in this class, hopefully it's a little bit more efficient and a little bit quicker than that, and you will start seeing some benefit pretty early on. As always, I hope you enjoy it, hope you come and check it out, and that we'll see you in class.